千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together.
So the purpose of the paraphrase is to demonstrate understanding by expressing the original with modern language. So nothing that we're going to say should contradict the ideas that we have discussed, the strategies, the mastery of yin and yang, of trying to accomplish one thing by putting your thoughts and energies and effort into its complementary opposite. Okay, so here we go. So in the first section, by the way, this is actually a section that extends from 1 down to 8, but we can divide it down into 2. Whenever you have a collection of 8, it's always something that can be divided into 4 and 2. So we have the classic lines. If one wishes to shrink it, one must first expand it. If one wishes to weaken it, one must first strengthen it. Here's the paraphrase. This is a pattern that manifests everywhere. Myriad things expand and then shrink, strengthen and then weaken. Wise cultivators make use of this pattern. So if they wish to shrink or weaken something, they will start by expanding and strengthening it. This may be contrary to what many people are inclined to do, but it works and creates lasting results. What about the following section? We get into discard, promote, seize, and give. And then we wrap the whole thing up and call it subtle clarity. Here's how I would paraphrase. Similarly, in human affairs, things are often promoted and then discarded. Positive or negative energies are often given and then reflected back in similar repeating patterns. Therefore, one can discard something by first promoting it and receive a certain energy by being the first to give it. These strategies are quite effective, but not well understood. Most people are still guided by ego instead of the Tao, and would tend to clash with others rather than to use the soft approach. So when I say most people are still that these strategies are not well understood, I'm referring to the subtlety of the Tao teachings. And that's what line 9 is all about, that these are not well understood. And you can also see in our paraphrase, we have basically made a distinction here between the first 4 lines, drawing from nature, examples that we have observed in nature, whereas from line 5 down to line 8, we're applying those examples, those observations to human affairs. So then the last and final section about the soft and weak overcomes the tough and strong. Fish cannot leave the depths. Sharp instruments of the state cannot be shown to the people. Here's how I would like to paraphrase. This is unfortunate because the soft overcomes the hard. So those who do not understand the Tao are at a disadvantage. Those who do understand should use their knowledge wisely. They should treat these strategies like fish swimming in the depths, unseen by most, or devastating weapons kept hidden and never brought out for display. Because the Tao transcends beyond all of that as a force for good. And you can definitely see that Zhuge Liang, as a master of the Tao, as a student, practitioner, and master of the Tao, definitely tried to conduct his life as a force for good. So that is the conclusion of 36. We've now done the paraphrase also. I have prepared for 37, but I think I want to leave our meeting with just 36 to keep all of our ideas and concepts encapsulated in one chapter. So rather than to head into 37 to fill out the time, I want to instead go to the summary. The summary, again, is all about 36. In 36, there's a couple more things that I want to mention. Two things we can learn about the Tao today. First, the way of the Tao always leans toward the compassionate. So I want to talk about these two things because it's not just about the skillful use of yin and yang, which we started talking about in our meeting today. These are the things that I want to leave you with as the summary, because if you do this, if you understand this and practice this, even if your detractors, critics, naysayers, even if they don't appreciate it, you can bet that other people will take notice about what you do, what you have done, and what you are likely to do in the future. So first, the way of the Tao always leans toward the compassionate, always. This comes from the observation about nature being nurturing of life, that nature provides everything life needs to survive and to thrive. So, drawing a conclusion from that, the Tao leans toward the compassionate, the nurturing. So in the story that you heard today, Zhuge Liang sought to minimize the loss of lives. The battles of ancient China were horrible in that after the clash of armies, there's going to be a lot of dead bodies. That's just the nature of war. So as a cultivator of the dead, Zhuge Liang was someone who wanted to avoid that. Also, it was a compassionate gesture for him to feed the troops of his enemy. So from those two things, you can learn about the soft overcoming the hard. Remember, it was Zhuge Liang deciding to feed the troops of Meng Huo that started him thinking, maybe I should change my ways. Started him thinking, maybe my adversary is not so bad after all, because he's feeding my men. So I mentioned two things we can learn about the Tao today, this being one of them, the compassion side of it. The other part of it is that the way of the Tao always focuses on the essence over the material. What am I talking about? What do I mean by that? Well, turning enemies into friends is far greater than defeating them physically. It's also far more difficult. So the essence of the Tao is to vanquish your enemies not by defeating them physically, but by turning them into friends. When you turn them into friends, no trace of your enemy remains. That is a far greater way to vanquish your enemies. It's a way that leaves no room for revenge. So here's what I would like everyone to do, and this is, I already know this is not going to be easy. As you go through life, you're going to come across opportunities where you can get one over an enemy, a detractor, a critic, a naysayer, someone who is against you. There's going to be opportunities to do that. When that happens, I want to ask you to resist the temptation to humiliate them, even when the chance presents itself, even when you feel like they're really asking for it. Resist the temptation. When you humiliate someone, it will lead to more negativity. That is a guarantee. So the challenge is the opposite. Whenever possible, give your critics, your enemies, a way to exit out of a bad situation for them with their dignity intact. Not easy. But if the Tao was easy, everyone would be a Tao master. So I want you to do what is difficult. I want you to practice the Tao that transcends beyond ordinary thinking. That is really my biggest message for you today.
Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Let us travel safely. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.